I'm Dr. House, House. Some of you already know me. A lot of seminaries today, because the focus of the seminary has moved from the Word of God to other issues. Because of that, the interest in theology and languages has gradually eroded. But we were committed to not do that. That is, I consider, and I think people in seminary consider the Bible to be the focus of the Christian life. And if people are going to be teachers of the Word, they have to be knowledgeable about everything we can possibly teach. And I know God will use people that don't have all this, but on the other hand, if we have the ability, there's no excuse. And so that's why we have 6 courses in Greek and 6 courses in Hebrew, because we believe the entire Bible to be the Word of God. And so I took a group of people through a sequence of Hebrew last year: winter, spring, summer, fall, and now they're doing winter and spring this year. And of course you'll do the same, hopefully. Winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring. And you'll have your sequence of Greek, and by the time you finish that, you should feel comfortable working in the Greek New Testament. The reason why a lot of pastors really never get into the languages when they preach is because they've been given such a minuscule and limited exposure to the original languages, they never feel comfortable. And so by the time you finish this sequence, you should feel comfortable working in the original languages. We also teach you how to use computers in language study also, which helps to speed up the process and help bring your remembrance some of those things you may possibly forget as you learn language. And language has to be kept up. Obviously, you lose some. But I find that if you really get the problem is you've got to get beyond a point where you sort of get a grasp. Until you get to that point, when you fall back, you just won't be able to do much. But if I get you past the hill, then you'll be able to use it. And even if you shouldn't use it as much as maybe as I would desire for you to, it'll be like riding a bicycle. You'll be able to get right back to it. So we're committed to do this. I'm glad that you're in the class. You're going to find Greek is not as bad as some people. It's Greek to me. It's Greek. Greek is Greek to me too. Believe it or not. And if it's not Greek, it's something else. So people are always saying it's Greek to me. You'll find out that Greek is an exciting language, and there's a lot of tools today. I just picked up a couple. I just in San Antonio at the National Evangelical Theological Society and Society of Book Literature, and I picked up a couple books on Greek. This is a brand new one, big print, and put out by the Net Bible people, New English translation. You'll become familiar, for example, with Dan Wallace, who's probably one of the major grammarians in the world now. Dan is a longtime friend. And Hall Harris, I don't know the first person here, Michael Burer, but the other 2 I do. And this is a way that you can actually have a fairly literal translation of the Scripture with discussions of why they adopted all the readings they did and translated. It was they told me 20% larger in the text, for when you get to my age, you can read it better. And also I picked up this, which is a neat little tool. It just came out. I asked Stan Gundry at Zondervan when you're going to do the Hebrew one, because we need one. But this is one. Notice the size of this. It's about half the size of a normal Greek Testament. Nice leather. And inside the Greek, and every word that occurs under 30 times or under the Greek New Testament, they have it marked, so at the bottom you can flip your eye down to it as you're reading. It really enhances the reading of the text. We'll probably use this at the end of the second term. You won't be ready for that right now, but by then you'll be reading some. As far as how the course is going to be conducted, I don't have a syllabus for you. I was thinking I had one, but I guess I need to go back and find it when I give to Carl for someone else. But I need to grab that one and bring it in here. But as far as procedure, just to let you know up front, there'll be quizzes all along the way, of vocabulary and forms. So you should be prepared to, when there's a vocabulary word in a lesson, it's gained once we passed it. As soon as we passed it, and I don't mean the same class period, but by the next class, if you've seen it, you're responsible for it. And that should be understood. Also forms the same way. When we go through forms, the session, the class meeting after we cover the form, you're responsible for it. And so that would be important. There's a lot of reading Greek in here, and that's going to be fun. More so than you normally encounter. And I'll show you, we'll go through the book here in just a moment. I'm just doing some preparatory kinds of things right now. But we'll read through the chapters together. We'll discuss the chapters. I've got overhead projections or PowerPoint that go through some of these things. I even have a couple of games I put together here. I need to make some copies of. Anybody ever done these things? Yeah. Well, these are in Greek. And we'll make some copies of that. They're word puzzles. They have these for Sunday school kids a lot, Bible stuff. Thought you'd enjoy them. And spend some time on that. There'll be things that we cover that are not in the book, and you'll just need to take good notes, because even though I like Croy, and I like Mouse to some degree, there's some things I did like about Mouse. We'll see how this goes. But there's some things he doesn't say that he needs to. There's some ways in which he's presenting the information, in my opinion, is not the best. And so we'll be changing those as I go through, and you'll need to be aware of that. I think, I'm going to take a look here real quick. No, he doesn't do that. A real deficiency, in my opinion, of the book, and we'll probably need to just see about getting you a better dictionary, is the use of the genitive case in the dictionary. You don't know what that is, don't worry about it, but we'll change that. Let me find out any expectations or views about Greek that you have some initial questions on.
Yeah, how relevant, there's a difference between the English we speak today and the English spoken, many, many years ago, but how, just curiously, how much would this relate to if we were over in the...
If you went to Athens today?
That's right.
I don't know, probably, you can see street signs, and if you know a lot of words, you can pick out stuff. I've actually gone through a modern Greek grammar, just out of interest, several years ago. Ancient Greek had 8 cases, and by the time the New Testament, we're largely working with 5. Most scholars today use a 5-case system, and there's a debate on this thing. It's not my intent to get into the debate here. For years, I used an 8-case system teaching, because case is said as a matter of function, not a matter of form. You have 5-case forms, 8-case functions. So some of the cases that I'll be showing you here, and you don't know what I'm talking about probably, but like of and from, of the man, from the man, those are different ways of saying ideas. To the man, in the man, by the man. These are ways in which you express ideas with nouns. Those are called cases. Most grammarians today use 5-case system, so in view of that I use it. But today's Greek has 3 cases, so we've gone from 8 to 5 to 3 primarily. Some of the forms are different. Vocabulary, obviously different meanings are found in the words, some of them, because of the vocabulary is obviously expanded. The sound, if you were to listen to a modern Greek speak, he would not sound like an ancient Greek if you had been listening to him. Ancient Greek actually was sort of sing-song, sort of like Chinese or something. It was when you see the rising of the pitch and a lowering of the pitch. They used a pitch sound and when we did the words. And grammarians today just illustrate that idea of sound our symbols that you'll see in a few minutes, called acute, circumflex, and grave accents. I'm telling you stuff that we haven't even gone over yet, so I'm just sort of running over your head right now, I know. But, so modern Greek has some similarities. A lot of the words are similar. In other words, if you're reading it, instead of speaking to somebody, you probably understand quite a bit, but you see forms that you've never seen before. After you finish all the Greek here, you will not recognize some things, because they've invented stuff for the last couple thousand years. So, but you know, when I go to Athens, I'm able to maneuver around a little bit because I can understand the Greek, that I can figure out what's going on. But when I listen to them speak, they speak too fast for me to try to figure it out. And every so often I hear a word and I figure out what it is. That's about how it works. Hebrew's a lot easier in that regard, because the modern Hebrew of Israel actually is built on biblical Hebrew less than 100 years ago. In other words, modern Hebrew was not the language of the nation, obviously. In 1948, when Israel became a nation, they built on a rabbi who taught his family biblical Hebrew to speak instead of just reading. And the entire nation built out of that. So Hebrew today is very close to biblical Hebrew. I'm not Greek. Any other questions?
Will we learn about the different Greek manuscripts that have been found, and and which ones are being used to compile what we use as the Greek New Testament?
At a certain time in the curriculum, you will, yeah. When you're in your principles of Greek exegesis, then you'll learn some about what is called textual criticism. And when you look in the bottom of the Greek New Testament, all this stuff here at the bottom, these are manuscript issues. And this tells you why they have a particular reading, because there are differences among the manuscripts. Nothing that affects any major doctrine, but nonetheless there are little differences that have to be looked at. And you'll get that in the 5th course you take.
And just as a textbook, so let's get us through one course or all 5? Or?
That's good for both quarters of elementary Greek. You'll have all this down, so you won't even need this afterwards. But that's the first 2 quarters. And in the second quarter, we'll pick up another book or 2. But right now, we're just going to concentrate on getting this down. About halfway through next quarter, believe it or not, about halfway through next quarter, we'll start reading the Greek New Testament. We'll be finished with this book. And it will be exciting. I'll never forget it when I've sat down and I can actually read it. And I thought, this is neat. Yeah. It's not as hard as you've heard. Okay, now, anything else?
I guess there's somewhat of a gap, maybe because of ignorance, that anyone that starts saying, well, in the Greek, kind of throws people off, because it's like they don't understand it, and since they don't want to understand it, they just kind of poo it as
You talking about a person in the pew, or are you talking about people that claim to know something about the Bible?
well, I guess I'm not sure where people in the pew, but people that are teachers.
Yeah. Well, without getting into names, review the fact that we're on tape right now. A person's name you mentioned earlier in the conversation tonight is a man that I've known a long time.
Right.
And he is ignorant of Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic, and basically ignorant of theology. And so, but he writes a lot and sells books. So he makes lots and lots of mistakes, and yet people that read him buy into his mistakes because he has no knowledge of the languages or theology. That happens. Just because you write a book doesn't mean you know anything. And see, a person can sound pretty good until they face somebody that really understands the questions. You know, and at that point, they either have to, very seldom do they repent and admit that they were wrong. So they have to put up, like the blowfish, you know, they have to do that, or they have to just avoid you. We are committed to a careful study of the Word of God. There simply is no substitute. And a person who claims to be a scholar in the Word should have those tools necessary to be able to be that. Otherwise, they're lying. Well, let's take some time and start now on the alphabet. We'll take a break here in just a little bit. Tonight, I don't know how long we'll go because you don't know anything yet, and there's some stuff I need, in a sense, for you to learn. And we will not meet next week. Next week, at this time, I will be in Dallas, Texas. And the next day, I will be in Tacoma, Washington. And the rest of the week, I'll be teaching up there. And so that's the way this quarter's gone, and I have to do it. That's my primary bread and butter, is my teaching every 1 week, every quarter there. So I have to be there. But we'll get this going, and then we will find a makeup time for one night somewhere in the quarter. But you can just enjoy the rest of the month. What I present to you, when you come back, you need to know cold. You need to know it as well as you know your name. I will be testing you when I come back. So if you come to the second class unprepared, you'll have a bad grade. So does everybody understand that? Am I clear?
We need to know.
Everything I'm about to teach you tonight.
So basically, we won't meet for 4 weeks.
You won't meet. You have a good break. And during that time, if I were you, I would read ahead. Anybody in my theology class tomorrow night? Good. Oh, smart people.
No,
I know,
that's why
but I'm not sure if
Well, that's why we're taking the class.
Yeah.
That's because we're not.
No. You may not be educated yet, but you're smart. There's a difference between being educated and smart. You realize that. Intelligence is, you can be highly intelligent and not know something. So intelligence doesn't deal with how
You
much
can know
knowledge.
something and still be a fool.
Yeah, sure. So you become educated. That's what holds things will take place. Are you guys taking I don't know how long you want to take to finish seminary. And we don't push people terribly, but our tuition is pretty low, and the availability is pretty easy. You ought to try to think at least to take a couple courses. That's 2 nights. And if you can take 3, take 3, but at least 2. That's not that much. I mean, when I was going to seminary, I was working a 40 to 60 hour week job, depending on what I was doing, and taking a full graduate load, including first year Hebrew. My first year, that was 13 hours. And so that was 13 semester hours the first year and working full time. So I'm just mentioning that to you, and I was married, that you may want to think about at least getting a couple courses in order to be able to move through the program and finishing it in a reasonable amount of time.
How'd your wife like that?
Well, she liked it, but she didn't have to work. I worked, and she was staying home. And at the end of that first year, we had our first child, Carrie. So think about that. If you haven't signed up for theology, think about it. It's a beginning course in theology, introduction to theology and bibliology. I'm doing a 4-volume systematic theology for Cradle Publishers, and the first volume coming out is what this course is dealing with this quarter. So anyway, you may want to think about it. If you don't do my class, there's that the Bible class with Gary Derrickson. If you haven't had him, he's quite outstanding. Does a great job teaching. So I would strongly encourage you to take him if you're not going to take me. But you ought to think about a couple of classes. All right. That's enough sell pitch. It's my job to be sure that I get you guys through this program. Let's take a moment and talk about the alphabet, the Greek alphabet. Now, the thing you have going for you in Greek, different from Hebrew, is that it's more familiar. Actually, Hebrew is an easier language, in my opinion. easier as a grammatical, syntactical language. It's an easier language. It's not as complicated, not as technical. But on the other hand, Greek is more familiar. It goes from left to right instead of right to left. It has characters that we use. And many words that we have in English come from either Latin or Greek. If you know Latin and Greek, you know most of science and math and all this kind of terminology here all the time. It's amazing how many things I come across and I can figure out because I know the language. But let's just take a moment then and do some things here in the Greek alphabet. Now, there's not too many letters, and we're going to say these together, so you'll have a chance to learn to pronounce them. We're also going to write them together. Now, please understand something. I do not try to write. There are people who do, and they do it well, and I don't criticize them. As a matter of fact, particularly Hebrew. I'm lousy in writing Hebrew, and some I know that are very fine scholars are worse than I am. But some people take great care to write where it looks like the Hebrew letter. And there are people who do the same with Greek. I mean, you look at this, and that's very close to what it look at English, how English is written in your book. I don't try to write exactly like the English. Okay, it'll be close. But if you notice, this is alpha. Now, some people prefer to write it like an A, and I don't care, because I can read it either way. But if you'll look at the letter and see the protrusion here, see that? You see that? So it's really sort of like that, if you look at the letter, but it's close. Alpha. So essentially, it's going to be on the line, if you want to be on the line, and it's probably closer to being more like a zero than like a fish. But I don't really pay much attention. When I'm writing fast, I write the way I want to write. And you can figure it out. You only have so many options. And it doesn't look like the others. Okay? By the way, I had one of the graduate class in papyrology, reading the ancient manuscripts. I had to go through lots of ancient manuscripts. A lot of different forms of handwriting by the scribes. And you can figure them out. Because if you had nothing to decide, you had no clue what language it was, it might be hard to write them. But anyway, you need to learn how to write the alpha, and I don't care how you do it exactly. It's going to be about the same. But it's an alpha, okay? Closer to being like this than the fish, okay? Alpha. Everybody say that?
Alpha.
Alpha, okay. Now beta, again, as far as the line is concerned, it basically is on the line like a B, except it protrudes underneath the line. It's like a B in English, but it's under. Beta, b, that sound, b. This is a ah sound or an ass sound. How do you say F-A-T? What's the A sound? Ah, right? You don't say fat, do you? You say fat, ass sound. But you don't say father, you say father. See how it works? A in English has more than one sound, so it depends on which word it's with. So here, the A, ah, ah. Here the B is a b sound. That's the sound that comes out, b. And so it's like a B, and what you do is just basically, however you want to write it, the point of it is, it's basically on the line and protrudes below the line, okay? Nobody's going to confuse how you write it if you get close. B, okay? B, beta. Now gamma is a g, it's never j. We sometimes in English use a G, like a J sound, like a soft sound. Ginger, see? G-I-N-G-E-R, ginger, that's a spice, or a girl's name, ginger. But Greek doesn't have that. Greek has a hard sound like got, gather, God, you know, that kind of sound. G, got. And that gamma, again, is basically on the line and protrudes below the line. And sometimes people write them just like a Y. Again, I don't care. But it actually, most do it this way. It's sort of like an A in a sense to the side. But it comes down below the line and goes back up. See that? That's a gamma. Now I realize that when you look at this gamma, it doesn't have that big curve in it. And I suppose if I wanted to, I could probably write that way. I'd just go like that, probably, like that, or something similar. But most guys write it this way. Gamma. Can you say that?
Gamma.
Gamma. What sound does it have? Get.
No, like,
Get. Like in got, gathered, get, God, got. You hear me? Okay, next is delta. Delta curves and goes to the line and forms a little bitty circle there. So again, close is important. Okay? So delta with a d sound. Can you say that? Delta. Now, you were asking me about modern Greek, Walter, but if you were doing modern Greek, and you don't need to learn this, but they would say alpha, vita. A V sound, not the modern beta, is V in modern Greece, not a V. We don't follow the modern way of doing it. So it's alpha, beta, gamma, delta, which in modern Greek is thelta, TH sound. It's a little differences, but we don't follow it. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, det. Then the word is epsilon. Epsilon is like a little e, sort of. It's not closed. Just on the line, just a little, like an e. It's an e sound. It only is always e. It's e like in met, in English, e. Okay. M-E-T, met, e, s sound. Any questions so far? Anybody? Zeta.